The dream of freedom. Africa was not always divided. We were not always weak. Before colonizers carved up our land like a piece of meat, Africa had empires, civilizations, order. From Kemet and Kush in the north, to Great Zimbabwe in the south. Africa had systems, kings, queens, farmers, warriors, and scholars. But then came colonization. They stripped our names, our gods, our languages. They took the gold, the diamonds, the cocoa, the people. They took everything and called it civilizing. When we finally began to rise, leaders like Kwame Nkrumah said, "We face neither east nor west. We face forward." He and others dreamed of a united Africa. One voice. One currency. One defense. One people. But that dream would soon be crushed. Not just by Europe and America, but by Africans in suits. Africans who sold the vision of Pan-Africanism for power, dollars, and foreign applause. Independence without power. Independence came, but it was a lie. Yes, the flags changed. The anthems changed. But the banks? Still European. The currency? Still tied to Paris. The weapons? Still made in America. The IMF and World Bank? Still calling the shots. In the 1960s and 70s, a few leaders dared to resist. Lumumba in Congo said, "We are no longer your monkeys." He was assassinated. Thomas Sankara in Burkina Faso said, "The one who feeds you controls you." He was murdered by a friend turned traitor. Amilcar Cabral, Samora Machel, Steve Biko, all silenced. The West didn't just kill our heroes. They replaced them with puppets. Leaders who smiled for the cameras while the people starved. Presidents who signed away resources, welcomed foreign troops, and jailed their own revolutionaries. We gained independence, yes, but not freedom. We became nations without sovereignty. The rise of neocolonialism. They said colonialism ended. But it never truly left. It simply evolved into neocolonialism. Instead of guns and chains, they now use debt, aid, military bases, and trade deals. They replace the governor with the ambassador. The soldier with the consultant. The whip with the loan. Today, France still controls the currency of 14 African countries through the CFA franc. That's not independence, that's economic slavery. The US has military bases across Africa, not to protect Africans, but to protect its interests. Resources. Influence. Control. And when a country resists, they use the IMF. The World Bank. Sanctions. They use propaganda, coups, and even rebels. Just look at Libya. Gaddafi wanted to create an African gold-backed currency. He spoke of a United States of Africa. So they turned him into a villain. They bombed him. They killed him. And left Libya in chaos. This is the reality of neocolonialism, control without occupation. A system where African leaders wear the crown. But the West holds the power. The role of African elites. But colonizers didn't do this alone. They had help from within. Not every African leader betrayed us. But too many did. They sent their children to Europe, while public schools at home crumbled. They stored stolen billions in Swiss accounts, while their people drank dirty water. They borrowed in the name of the people, but lived like kings. And when activists rose up, they jailed them. Silenced them. Sometimes even killed them. These elites became middlemen for the West. Signing away oil fields. Allowing mining companies to poison rivers. Begging for aid while flying private jets. They wear African cloth, but serve foreign masters. They speak of unity, but fear a united Africa more than they fear the West. Because a united Africa would mean the end of their power, the end of their deals, the end of their luxury, built on the backs of the poor. Until we expose these collaborators, until we hold them accountable, Africa will remain trapped. Not by Europe, not by America, but by our own foreign troops on African soil. They tell us foreign soldiers are here to help, to fight terrorism, to stabilize our countries, to protect democracy. But whose democracy? Whose interests? The United States has AFRICOM, its military command for Africa, with over 40 bases across the continent. France has troops in the Sahel, controlling key zones in Mali, Niger, Chad, and Burkina Faso. But since these foreign forces arrived, terrorism hasn't gone down, it has exploded. In Mali, in Burkina Faso, in Nigeria, the violence spreads like wildfire. And every year, these armies claim they need more bases, more weapons, more control. Yet, they never leave. Because it was never about peace. It was about presence. It was about positioning, to control Africa's future. They say it's for security. But it's about uranium in Niger, gold in Mali, oil in Nigeria, cobalt in the Congo. And African leaders, many of them, welcome these forces. Not for the people, but for aid money, for weapons, for protection against their own citizens. But here's the truth. No foreign army has ever freed a people. Freedom is won, not delivered. How Africa was kept weak. If Africa is so rich, why is it so poor? Because poverty is not an accident. It's a strategy. They keep us weak so we stay dependent. They destabilize regions so no one can unite. They fund wars, back militias, arm both sides, and sell peace afterward. Look at the Congo. Over 6 million dead since the 1990s. And still, the West extracts billions in gold, coltan, and cobalt. They use local warlords, corrupt generals, and greedy elites. Divide and conquer, again and again. They rewrite history books. They tell us our heroes were dictators. They flood our media with distractions. They teach our youth to admire the West, and forget who we are. Our universities rely on foreign grants. Our militaries rely on foreign training. Our economies rely on foreign loans. That's not independence. That's designed dependency. Africa is kept weak by design. So it can be mined. So it can be used. So it can be owned, without the burden of conquest. We were not born weak. We were made weak. By force, by fraud, and by betrayal. But that chain can be broken. Africa is not poor, it is plundered. Our people are not powerless, they are sleeping. Our history is not lost, it is buried, waiting to be unearthed. Now is the time to rise. To wake up the youth. To teach the truth. To build what colonialism and corruption tried to destroy. We don't need saviors. We need unity. We need knowledge. We need courage. If we do not rise, we will remain slaves with smartphones. Followers with no vision. A people ruled by fear and fed lies. But if we rise, not as tribes, not as parties, but as Africans, we become unstoppable. This channel is one voice. But together, we are an echo. An echo of Lumumba, Sankara, Cabral, Biko. An echo of truth, memory, and revolution. Subscribe. Share. Speak. Teach. The next generation is watching. Let them know we didn't stay silent. This is Echoes of Africa. This is our story. And we're just getting started. Africa betrayed, but not broken. Subscribe to Echoes of Africa, uncensored. Unapologetic. Unafraid.